You're with Julian on the Brown Note and a review of Louis Theroux's The Settlers, but it's not really a review so much as a discussion around why it's such an important documentary. Louis Theroux, much loved documentary maker, goofy style. For me, the last 10 years have been pretty rum. I think his documentaries have been terrible. He had this really long heyday, but I think when he's sort of come back again over the last decade, his documentaries have often been just repetitious or less impactful than what he'd done before. I just went off the boil for me. But this one is not. This is one of the, if not the best thing he's ever done. But it's also a very timely one, and it's a very important documentary. The fact that this was made by the BBC, who are incredibly gun-shy when it comes to Israel. They are the UK is astonishingly gun-shy when you've even got people like Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, who is slavishly pro-Israel. There's the BBC will get attacked for anything. So how they got away with releasing this, I don't know. Because they've certainly pulled other critical of Israel documentaries, I believe, in the last 6 months. And this one has him going basically to the settlements in the West Bank and not quite in the Gaza Strip, but where the Israelis have been basically just putting up tents and building houses and taking over areas protected by the Israeli Defense Force. And the settlements are illegal under international law, where they've just basically taken the land with the onus on breeding out the Palestinian population of those areas. And one of the most prominent people is Daniela Weiss, who's the godmother of the settlers. And she's like a Golden Meir character. She could play Golden Meir in a movie, no doubt at all. There's a real sense of danger in the documentary. Early on, we see Theroux in one of these settler outposts with Palestinians in a Palestinian house right next door to one of these settler camps of Jewish Israelis who are very much hardline. Their onus is to breed out the Palestinian population. There's no bones about that being made. But he's standing in his house at night in the middle of nowhere, and the Israeli Defense Force turn up and they're putting laser sights on the wall in the pitch black, and they're all standing completely frozen. It's pretty terrifying. I would have soiled myself, to be honest. You think, well, what if they don't know who he is? Or what if they don't care who he is? He looked like, he was one. How many journalists have been killed in the last year in Gaza Strip? Daniela Weiss is like the leader of these settlements. But one of, Anthony Bourdain did a really good, unusual for America, a really good documentary on the same thing. And they both Bourdain and Louis Theroux do the same thing, which is let them hang themselves. They just let them talk because it's so bad what they're saying. And you can see behind their eyes what they're hiding as well. It's like they're trying to make as nice as possible, walking around carrying guns it's confronting stuff and very timely stuff. But the reason that the documentary is so important is it says the quiet part out loud. For the last half a century, we have laboured under a lie, which is that Israel will be nice to the Palestinians if they behave, which has always been a lie. And it's usually been, a cycle of Israel continually attacking these people and then them fighting back. And then that's the reason why Israel's attacking them. And that's been the case for decades now. This shows how much of a lie that is. The Western nations saying, we're equal on this. We want Palestinians to be okay. We want Israelis to be okay. If the Palestinians will just behave in such a manner, this documentary blows that out of the water completely. There is no way the Palestinians can behave that will not involve them being eradicated from the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Even Lebanon is mentioned by the settlers in this. The goal has always been to remove these people from that land, to ethnically cleanse the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Everything else is a lie, and this shows it completely on the table. None of the people that are featured from the Israeli side in this have any intention of allowing any sort of population of Palestinians in the West Bank or Gaza Strip. Like the idea that the return of hostages, Netanyahu worships the fact that the hostages haven't been returned. It's all a complete lie. It wouldn't matter if there were hostages or not. The behaviour would be the same. It's just massively exacerbated and ramped up what's happened, with the addition of Trump being the most pro-Netanyahu American president and state sponsor of terror you could possibly get. So we're just talking about genocide. We're just talking about ethnic cleansing. You know, the West Bank is being targeted by the Israeli military at the moment. They didn't have anything to do with what happened on October the 7th. There was a Hamas side in the Gaza Strip, but they're still going into the West Bank to do exactly the same thing. It never mattered how they behaved. The settlers are basically what the plan has always been. I did a piece about a year ago. You know, you could say, why don't Israel just take the West Bank and Gaza Strip? Because there's about 7 million Jews in Israel and about 2 million Palestinians in Israel. And there's another 2 million in the West Bank and another 2 million in the Gaza Strip. So there'd be nearly 7 million Palestinians in that Israeli country. They would never have a democratic election again. They can't countenance having nearly half the population being Palestinian at all. So they have to remove them, which is just insanity. And the other thing is, the least heard voice in the world media at the moment are Jews that oppose Netanyahu. There are millions globally that oppose Netanyahu. We see in this documentary that when there's a bunch of Jews that are protecting an olive farmer who's had this olive farm for years and years and years, and then the Israeli military turn up and just say, you haven't got a permit for your own farm. And basically are just waving guns around saying, get the hell out. I mean, there's a really interesting moment where he's doing this Keystone Cops thing with a Palestinian around a part of the West Bank, going through checkpoint after checkpoint. And, you know, the Palestinian guy has to stand further up the road because the other time, a few days before, the invisible line in the street was closer and now it's moved out. And that was symbolic of the whole thing. In fact, the biggest symbolic moment was Daniela Weiss. She tried to show a metaphor for what's happening. She denied that settler violence was happening, which is garbage. It's so well documented. But she tried to say that, you know, all you see in the world media is the response. So she really shoved Louis Theroux to create this metaphor, but her metaphor relied on him shoving her back, which as a 6-foot-plus guy against this, 65-year-old lady, he wasn't going to do. So she actually said, I wish you'd push me back, because that was her metaphor for what's going on. The fact that he didn't push her back in the very end of the episode really created a metaphor I bet she wished she hadn't. But the Jewish voices are prevalent in every country as well. In America, they had mass protests at the White House protesting Netanyahu. There are tens of thousands of people every week in Israel that protest Netanyahu. A lot of Israelis are very left-wing. We never hear these voices because it's very, very difficult. What's going to happen in America when they try and turf everyone that's pro-Palestinian out of the country and find out a lot of those people are Jewish? What are they going to do to them? An eradication of people won't work. How are they going to do it? They can't realistically kill them all. It's just something that will go on forever. No other country in that region will accept these people because they've already got 3 million of them in Lebanon, I believe. And because even people that are slavishly with America, like the Saudis, are completely against the idea of removing the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. It won't be accepted. It's not doable. The two-state solution was pretty much the only way of doing it. Even if you remove 2 million people, even if 4 million people and the other 2 million that live in Israel, if you remove 6 million people, they're never going to forget. Generations from now, they won't. This will just carry on for decades. But they know they've never had a better chance in the White House. And I mentioned this the day I say that it's saying the quiet part out loud, that it never mattered how the Palestinians behaved towards Israel at all. It was, we are going to remove you from this area. This is from today. Israel's Security Cabinet approves plan to capture Gaza. This is today. Israel's Security Cabinet has approved a plan to expand its military offensive against Hamas, which includes the capture of Gaza and holding onto the territory and not leaving. They're going to basically, I think from what I've read on it, put a line through Gaza, so they're just shrinking it. So they're going to push all the Palestinian population beyond one side and then just settle the other. It's ethnic cleansing. It's just the literal definition of ethnic cleansing. But I thought it was a very timely, very strong documentary, and I'm going to give Louis Theroux, The Settlers, a 9.5 out of 10. It's on YouTube.